All right. Welcome, everybody. We are super excited to be here today with our two residents that we're going to be speaking to, Stefan Cartridge and Jennifer Prather. Both are stepping into sales as a second or third career in their life, which is an audience we really love to support as they transition their careers at certain points in life. Both very different career histories, which is really exciting. We'll get into that today. But we just want to say welcome to Dialed In. We're really excited to talk to you today.
We're really excited you're here, guys.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Yeah, wonderful.
Why don't we start, Jennifer and Stefan, introducing yourselves to each other and just sharing a little bit about your story?
Yeah, sure. Jennifer, do you want to go first?
All right, sure will. All right. So I'm Jennifer, and I come from an education background. So I have some time in classroom teaching. I have some time in educational publishing and in virtual schools. And my focus has mainly been elementary and English learner education.
Very cool. My name's Stefan. My background is in the wine industry. So I spent a good brief 9-year stint in wine before transitioning to my current role.
Awesome. What do you guys want to each share what your current roles in residency are?
Okay, I am with a math education company called Agile Mind.
Nice. I'm with a tech startup called Acral Data.
Wonderful.
Curious, what kind of drove both of you, after having such time in your careers previously, what was kind of that precipice for, I think I want something different, and why sales?
Yeah, for me, I can say I had a role and an experience like earlier in my career that like planted the seed for me that I might want to come back to this later. So I was working for a school publisher and part of a sales and training team, and I loved the energy and the environment and kind of the opportunity to be out in the world interacting. And so that was the seed planted that I just really didn't forget about and came back to it. But what I like about the sales role is I feel like it kind of gives me a sense of agency over where I want to go, gives me more options, sense of agency over, my work environment, an industry I might want to be in, or and over what I earn.
Yeah, 100% Jennifer. I really appreciate that, particularly about agency, which is kind of what happened with me. I was working in my family's wine business. We're based out of Mendocino County in California. And so I had been working with them since college, essentially, for 10 years, wearing a lot of different sales hats, but primarily was doing direct wholesale for them, and trying to open up anywhere that would sell wine in the Bay Area. So did a lot of driving around late nights, which was sort of my sales baptism by fire, I guess you could say. And from there, wanted just to kind of start flexing some new muscles. I've always kind of had an interest in tech, and was just kind of looking to break into that space. I'm based in San Francisco. Obviously, it's just you can't walk 2 steps without stepping in a startup. So yeah, it was just something I kind of wanted to explore more, and was lucky that SV found this great opportunity for me with Acro Data.
It's super interesting because both of you like have past experiences, with Jennifer, you being in education, now you're working for ed tech, and then Stefan, like you had sales in your role, like a different capacity, but it was like you were part of a sales cycle and then now being in sales in a different capacity. So really shows that like the transferable skills can look so different or the transferable experiences can look so different. It doesn't mean you're necessarily going to like sell a similar product
Right.
as like what you previously were in, but
Mhm.
you can kind of leverage so much. But I'd love to kind of hear a little bit about like what was maybe a challenge that you experienced kind of though still diving in, even though you can leverage so many skills that you had, what maybe kind of felt challenging or overwhelming at the beginning?
Thanks so much.
Fair.
You just put your hand up to go first. Love it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was really like I felt I mean, just in the context of wine, I mean, that's wine sales as a concept. I don't know. I think it's been around since like the Roman times or maybe even earlier. So like it's a very analog world in a lot of ways. it kind of lags behind technology in a lot of ways. So for me, like transitioning into Acquil Data and a tech startup was like stepping out of a time capsule and all of a sudden I'm in the future. Like just the tools that were available, like all the new just kind of methodologies that have evolved. I mean, a lot of what I did in my family business, I mean, I was just getting guidance from like my family, but like didn't have a like a sort of professional or like educational background in sales. So like it was just all kind of a combination of like advice and common sense that kind of got me through that. And then to kind of come into this role was like really energizing because it was just like, oh my goodness, now this is like there's so much to learn here that I kind of know, but didn't really have the vocabulary for. And so now just kind of like threading that all together, I was like, oh, that's what I was doing. I didn't even know I was doing that when, you know, outbound, inbound, and like lead qualification and the sales cycle, like all of that was kind of as terms new to me, even though I'd been doing it. So it kind of like solidified a lot of stuff in my mind, and that was really really exciting.
I can relate to that, thinking about the transferable skills. You know, as a job seeker, I spent a lot of time thinking about what are my transferable skills, you know, from education. And what you said about vocabulary, you know, really resonates because one of the things like the SV kind of helped shine a light on for me was how are you going to position the skills that you already have? And you kind of need to know what that vocabulary and framework is in the new role so that you can do that. Um, but I am in a familiar industry now, ed tech. But before joining Agile Mind, I spent some time on a team that was in a completely different industry, and so it is like whoa, an immersion into a completely different language that you're speaking. And it was, I'd say, the biggest challenge there is feeling credible and talking to prospects when they know their industry and in fact you are brand new to it. So
Yeah,
uh, you know, it's like a real mindset shift and getting up to speed quickly.
how to fight that imposter syndrome for sure.
Yeah.
I will
Yeah.
say Jennifer
Yeah.
jumped in with gusto. Yeah, you did it with great kind of braveness running into that new role. So kudos to you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think any new role can be so difficult. And then on top of that, you're like a new industry, a new, like, we talk about sales acumen sometimes when we're like, we want to give you the language of like, of very much what you spoke to, Stefan, like in the boot camp, you want to give the language, you want to kind of give you the vocabulary to use, but it's like sometimes it's by fire hose and you're like,
Yeah.
this is a lot.
I mean, it's you just have to have your single source of truth because it's just, you know, so easy to step on someone's toes and like going after leads that someone else has been working for months and not realizing it, and then just having to, you know, apologize profusely when you get the meeting instead of that person. That may or may not have happened to me today, but but thankfully it was my manager. She was very understanding and let me book the meeting. So, but yeah, no, it's. I mean, technology has just evolved so quickly, and it seems like, you know, the tools and methods that are, it's just a constant shifting landscape. And so folks who are getting into this, like you have to just really be adaptable, I think. Like it just seems like you have to have that flexibility just to be able to like go with whatever the direction things are headed with sales now. And just because AI is sort of everyone is buzzing about it and talking about how that's going to
Yeah.
change the whole formula, and like it seems like there's a lot of still what are we figuring out? How do we use these tools to be the most effective for us and our teams?
I'm curious, both of you coming to SV Academy with an established prior career, part of the experience after you land that residency is we say to everyone, you've got to come through and go through our boot camp now. What did it feel like to be back in that learner mindset, that classroom setting?
As a teacher, Jennifer, do you have any thoughts?
Don't all speak at once.
It's like, don't ask me.
Yeah, I think it's a shift because you're stepping out of the known and maybe an area of competency that you have been in for a while. You've gotten, you know, a little comfortable, and then you're choosing to take on that beginner's mindset and, you know, step into that new vocabulary, that new technology, and um, carve out time that maybe you haven't been used to carving out for classes. And um, So I think you have to prepare yourself kind of just in your mind, in your mindset. But and it's also really motivating, especially with the community of learners that you're with who have made the exact same choice you're making at the same time. So
Mhm.
there's a lot of
Mm.
support in that. And then of course the SV, like the team and coaches and instructors, really make it rewarding and kind of a welcoming place. Once you get there, there's no question, oh yes, this is where I want to be. So
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like SV Academy, I think does a really good job of like, I mean, supporting its candidates. I think like there's just a real sense, like I felt like a real strong sense of community with my cohort. And it was just so nice to have them keep popping back up and seeing like them evolve in their own career and companies. So like it was just kind of nice to have that with us, that continuity. And also just it's always good to know that you're going through the same things as everybody else, like the frustrations, the successes, like we're all kind of like, why aren't our connection rates higher? Why are, like, can I just not get this person to like respond to I've messaged them like 13 times, or whatever it is, so really just that shared experience obviously brings everyone a little bit closer and just kind of makes it a lot better. But yeah, it was definitely fun. It was like I felt kind of like first day of school when we first started with that introductory boot camp. So
Love it.
and I love that the network continues. The community is like so big and connected, and I think that's going to be a real benefit moving forward.
Yeah. Like part of the SB family for life. We've talked kind of about we talked about the challenges, which like there's challenge to anything new and there's challenge to any experience where you're kind of putting yourself out of the comfort zone and kudos to both of you for doing that. Um, but in the same sentiment, you both have found success in your own right. Like we are so proud of you and hear from your management team all the time how awesome you guys are. And so I want to also kind of leave some room for like, what do you think really played a role in your success? Like, and what did you kind of take charge into to create that?
for me, it was my manager. Yeah, she was just a incredible mentor and coach, and like patient but funny, and like just gave that tough love that I like from from a teacher. Just kind of, would call me out for my mistakes for sure, and but just I mean the feedback I got was so helpful, and I just really felt that she was in my corner, and so just having that as a role model when I was just getting started in something new, just gave me a lot of confidence and kind of just made me feel a little bit more stable in what I was doing than I might not have otherwise have gotten. So I really credit her for contributing to a lot of my early successes with Apple.
Yeah, that really makes sense. It resonates with me. And I have a couple of thoughts. I think it's, your manager makes a huge difference. And then also the colleagues that you kind of connect with who serve as mentors. And, I've realized if you pay attention to who's successful, but also has a similar approach that you do, then, those are the teammates that you really want to connect with and learn from. And so I found both like support from managers, but then also great teammates have been important.
We talked about the idea of community and the community that SV provides, and we want to continue to provide even past that 12-week residency period. But Jennifer, you really hit on something there in terms of you have to find your core group at your company as well. You have to find that kind of that group of people who you feel like, yes, we're in this together and we're going to support each other. And even though sales is a kind of a challenging role and it's kind of like I'm out there, in it for myself to get the numbers that I want, you can't do that in a vacuum. You still have to do that with your community around you. That's the only way you're going to be successful. So I love that you touched on that. Curious, as you guys are, acknowledging kind of shifting careers and shifting gears, what do you think, or how do you think that really helped you be successful versus had you taken this step into a sales role fresh out of college?
You know, I I think there's a big benefit to coming in with some career experience because you are focused on the new role, the new skills but you've already learned how to navigate the workplace. You've already, developed, your interpersonal communication skills at work. And so you're bringing all that and refining it, but not really starting and learning how to be a professional. You're bringing that professional core and then working on your skills. So I think that's been valued. And I think any industry you come from, like Stefan from wine or wine sales or me from education, I mean, there's so many transferable skills that you just maybe didn't realize they were going to transfer. But like coming from education, I've realized that, as educators, what we're doing is uncovering someone's needs and finding those gaps. And we're doing the same thing in sales through our questioning. And the other piece that I found to be really transferable was being data driven and goal driven, because in education and in sales, it's very similar.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I think that that really hits home for me. Just yeah, I think like with me and having a background in wine sales, I mean, yeah, I mean, it felt comfortable for me to kind of come into this new role, just because I was used to rejection. I was used to kind of getting a little surly response from people every now and again, and having learning to really let that flow off of me like water off a duck's back. Just kind of like, I mean, I just got so used to rejection at a point where just like it doesn't really. I mean, I'll be honest, I still get a little jittery when I make a cold call, but I think we all do. But it definitely gave me a bit of a tougher skin, and so I just learned not to take anything personally, and just kind of keep rolling. No matter whatever call you have, no matter how good or bad, you're just on to the next one, and you're back to square one. So it's just kind of a little bit of a reset each time. And Yeah, and I don't know if this is true for you, Jennifer, but just, I mean, having that kind of curiosity, you were mentioning being goal oriented and having that just kind of like, you just have to be open to anything. Like you just have to really be curious about like, what is it that I'm doing that's working? What is it that I'm doing that's not working? And how do I pivot? And when do I pivot? Because sometimes, I mean, I had a tendency to maybe give up on a strategy a little too soon, not let it kind of fully flesh out. And other times, maybe I stuck with something a little longer than I should have. So it's tough to know that balance, but you just get it from experience. And I think just having that early sales experience really kind of helped me understand that a bit better. And so definitely helped contribute to me being successful so far at ACT.
I will say that like in the SV boot camp and instructors were, really great at preparing us for like the rejection rate. That's like not that something went wrong. That's just a part of the deal, right? So when you know to expect it and it's the norm, then it takes less of a toll than if you weren't expecting that. So that made it a little bit easier for me.
You guys also know, like, it's just so funny how like every interaction seems kind of brand new, but you guys like, almost every outcome that could possibly happen. And so like, and there's just there's a protocol to handle each of one of those outcomes. Can you say like just have to go in with a naive optimism every day?
Yeah. Yep.
So well.
If you could, I mean, I know wisdom comes with time, but if you could, like, give anyone who was in the position you were in 3 months ago, like a piece of advice, what would it be?
I mean, I think just go for it. If you're like unsure, like I think it's always worth exploring something new to you and really just yeah, embrace the discomfort. I was before SB Academy came along and before I started working with Acroel, like I was in a slump. I just kind of felt stuck where I was, and I just felt like I wasn't growing as a person, and I just like I was so used to it, and I just felt very comfortable where I was. So I was like, I mean, I traded comfort for like something new and something that was a little bit more risky potentially. And so I can understand why some people maybe would struggle with that. And I always consider myself a generally risk averse person, but it just felt like the right move. And I was just kind of like thinking like how excited I was getting by thinking about this transition. And so that excitement to me, I had to listen to and follow. And I really don't regret it. So
I'd say if it feels like a leap, take it. Because you're right, Stefan, like it, when we mentioned earlier, like you're leaving the known and you're stepping into something that you're less sure about and more risky. So, but it's worth it.
Was there anything that like did surprise you in the experience?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, yeah, I found myself surprising myself a lot. I don't know if that was true for you, Jennifer, but I mean, given like kind of our backgrounds again, like just having this all be so new, like it just, I don't know if there was a like a moment, like a light switch went on for you where you're like, oh, I can do this. Like I'm doing this. And then you kind of like don't want to think about it too hard because then that's when you like trip, right? But it's kind of like in a cartoon when the character like runs over the cliff and they're like going, and they're still running over the cliff, but then the moment they look down is when they fall. I feel like that was like kind of the surprise for me was just like how I felt like, wow, I'm doing this, and I'm just trying not to look down.
But
What I also think is interesting is when you're saying what surprises us, is what I'm noticing is, there are those tried and true principles of selling and methodologies. And then there's this piece, like on both of the teams I've worked with recently, where practices are evolving because the way people work evolves and tech is evolving. And so there's this element of wanting to adapt and be ahead of it. And so looking to both kind of experts and methodologies from the past, but then also paying attention to those people, experts who are putting out content and looking for new ways to do things. And so fortunately, I like have recently worked with two managers who are very forward thinking and looking at ways to adapt to who the customer is right now. So I think that's been really kind of interesting observation that I didn't know to expect, but I think is exciting.
we've talked a lot about excitement in the last couple of minutes, and it's normal when we go into these new environments. We're in that honeymoon stage. Like sometimes we have those rose-colored glasses on, and it's normal for that to kind of wane a little bit. Curious around once you start hitting like 6 months, 12 months, maybe 18 months, how do you plan on keeping that excitement and energy level up for a role that can be tough? It requires a lot of energy of you. So how do you maintain that?
Well, we're not there yet, right? Um, I
Will
plan
you ever
on
be?
taking people's advice, which I've been, paying attention to. But I've heard a lot of people say, fill your well, right? Be intentional with your time and make sure you have a plan for taking care of yourself professionally, but then also outside of work, and not to let yourself get depleted because that would be the most kind of irresponsible thing that you could do.
I think like for me, it would be kind of, yeah, piggybacking off of that, just like you have to be, I think that's where the curiosity mindset really plays a part too. I think you really need to, because like if you think you know something, like I think the smartest people in the world will say like they don't know often, like they don't understand, but they want to learn. And I think that's how you keep it fresh. Because like you might get stuck in like a sort of habit. And I think that's an important time to have some self-awareness and say, is this my am I, maybe I'm doing well, but like things are changing all the time. And that's what makes sales so dynamic. It's like it's a constantly changing field. So how do you make sure that you're staying aware of those changes and keeping your nose to the ground or ear to the ground, nose to the ground, whatever it is, to see like what's going on and what are the new strategies that are coming out and what are the new tactics you can use and just you know explore your creativity again. I mean, there's always going to be something fresh there to uncover. I think if you just have that kind of curiosity mindset.
Curious what habits do you guys both have in place right now that support you, that supported this transition and you feel like are really helping to solidify your success?
My wife.
I would, and
I
I
think
would,
his son too, but
what?
he's 8 months, so I don't know. I mean, he smiles at me a lot. I take that as a sign of support. But yeah, my wife was very much supportive of this, and really was the one who encouraged me to do it because there was a point, Heatherlyn, when you had the contract was there, I had to sign it, and I went to Danielle and I said like, should I do this? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I can. Like, and she was like, you're doing it.
Thank you, Danielle.
Listen to your wife, habit number one. I love it.
And she was right on. Like, I mean, yeah. So she's been an incredible resource for me.
And I think a habit that has been working well for me is that I started recently was really just starting the day time blocking, like having the plan, because once it's made, I mean, yes, you have to be flexible and you have to pivot and you have to pivot often, but just having the plan in place, alleviates all those extra decisions throughout the day because you've made them. And for me, making them in the morning is the best time to do it.
Awesome. Final question. What's your favorite kind of ice cream?
I'll go chocolate. Yeah.
Tried and true.
Respectable, respectable choice.
Boring, but solid.
I have a sad answer. I can't have ice cream. I'm lactose
Like if
intolerant.
you could, just imagine you could.
Oh my God. Well, you're right. There was a time when I wasn't lactose intolerant and then I became lactose. I don't know. Anyway, funny how changes the body goes through as we age. But yeah, I was a big Rocky Road fan. That was like my go-to.
You never go wrong with either of those. Heatherlyn, what about you?
Oh man. I've been on a strawberry kick. Like,
Mm.
and yeah, I really like strawberry. My daughter really likes strawberry. We like share a little pint, and it's awesome. Jane, you?
Mint chocolate chip all the way.
Oh yeah.
Although chocolate's a good backup, but yeah, I love mint chocolate chip.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for your time and for sharing all of your wise words of wisdom. We're, like I mentioned, we're both so proud of you. You guys have done amazing in your residencies and beyond, really risen to the challenge. And I have no doubt that others are going to see how you've done that and kind of be able to listen to your story and maybe have a little bit more gumption and faith in themselves to do it too.
Absolutely. And thank
Thanks,
you
guys.
all so much for giving us these amazing opportunities, like just changing the course of lives here.